It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. I am sure we're going to be having a lot of focus, a lot of back and forth on those platforms here today, as we are, among other things, certainly going to be focusing on what we know now, what the current situation is, crime scene continually updates coming from it, from what we reported to you as breaking news, unfortunately, live on air yesterday. Not usually our focus, but needs must and such whenever we have things going on in the community. So what we know now, what the situation is, and what comes next from the Cielo Vista food court shooting, certainly a major focus we're going to be having today. We're going to be having some clips for you from the most recent updates from police and investigators on the crime scene, on what's going on with it, what's going on with the vehicles, among other things, and the releasing of the scene. So also the resources available to the community. We'll certainly be doing a breakdown of a lot of that going on for you here today, as is pretty well expected from it yesterday. So just want to make it very clear right at the start here, we're going to be discussing what's going on, what information is known now, but there is still a lot that is not known, a lot that is still under the ongoing investigation, as has been said by police and investigators. So we'll kind of break down what the major questions are remaining, and want to say it right now that this is, again, ongoing investigation in a lot of ways. There are resources for those out in the community that feel particularly affected by this. I know that for a lot of people, this may have been very, well, frankly, triggering is the appropriate word in this case. So there are a few resources out there that we'll be mentioning throughout the program, and I'll take the time to do that right now. 988, the mental health crisis hotline that has been established nationally and, of course, is available locally by 988, or if you want to make it a local call, 915-779-1800. That's 915-779-1800 for the crisis hotline, because this certainly could be hearkening back to some previous memories going on there. But for everything else going on, and we'll continue mentioning that throughout the program, because that is definitely important. And frankly, as more details come out, the fact of the focus on this and how it harkened back to previous incidents that have certainly affected us here in the borderland is probably one of the more significant things for the community at large, even as the investigation goes on, being called, quote, a random incident, end quote, by police, the interim chief of police, among others. But we'll delve into all that as we get through the progression of the show today. Not the only focus, because there are still other things going on and certainly affecting us here in the borderland, including updates coming out from the Supreme Court about those arguments, or now lack thereof, going to be coming involving Title 42. So we'll be discussing that and further breaking that down. So a lot more, and certainly plenty of other, unfortunately, things affecting us here in the community here today. And of course, we'll be taking those phone calls, doing all that stuff that we usually do a little bit later in the show, as well as taking those comments. So those already over on our social media. Joining us right now, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Monica Cervantes. Appreciate the likes and reacts, because even though we talk about difficult things here sometimes, we still appreciate the ability to talk about them. So if you also appreciate it, having live local talk radio and talking about the things that affect us here in the borderland, well, we appreciate it in due course, as it helps us with all those algorithmic things. So like I said, bunch of clips that we're going to be playing from, again, the most recent news conference that has come out from police. There was the one that, of course, our news partners over at KFOX 14 brought you last night. And we did, of course, do the coverage that we actually just brought you their coverage live and on our airwaves in the 6 o'clock hour, so immediately after this program yesterday, as there were still a lot of developments. You heard on air some of the initial things coming out from El Paso Police Department Sergeant Gomez, talking about what they knew at that point in time here. So some of the major headlines, I'll go over them right now. Again, this incident happening at Cielo Vista Mall was a, quote, random incident, end quote, among two groups, and that these were two groups that ended up getting into a fight and ultimately shooting apparently at each other. Now, of course, some of the questions that were coming out of yesterday is that there was one suspect as large. As of it stands right now, two suspects are in custody, and it has been said that all of the individuals, both the suspects and those that were otherwise apprehended or those that were in the hospital, including the deceased, were young males between the late teens and early 20s in age. So we'll have more on the audio and coming it from there. And I mean, a lot of commentary coming in already, certainly here. Yeah, Patriot Chick actually making a point that it had kind of not registered totally locally, but that the Buffalo top shooter was convicted to life without parole. That happening kind of the juxtaposition with that August 3rd incident here, that happening closer to the span of a year, if not exactly within it there. Also, Angel Ruedo joining us. Appreciate that. Hello is to you as well. And RJ saying, seen it unfold and felt bad for being thankful that only one died when I realized that that's one family member, whether it was one or 22 more, were feeling horrible. Flaco Jimenez also adding his perspective, saying, drove by Cielo Vista last night and it looked like law enforcement and convention lights everywhere. Yeah, very much so, which I think I'm not saying that it was wrong to have a massive response out there, but I think that the scene, some of the pictures that have come out from it, including from those over at with our news partners at KFox 14, showing the scenes outside, say the doors of it, certainly hearkening back to previous incidents and previous, attacks that have happened here, though this one appearing to be very much of a different order of magnitude. Some of the other very important details that we know at this point is that, again, one person did die. 3 others were injured, at least 2 critically, one about in stable condition, one still in critical condition, according to police earlier this afternoon, still in the hospital. The investigation is still ongoing. Again, gang involvement was said not to be a factor at this moment, but details on the firearms, exact motivation, things like that are still, part of the ongoing investigation. So those are some of the questions that we're still waiting to get answered for us. So we're going to go ahead and take that first break of this hour right now. Just want to lay out some of the things. At least one other thing I want to mention, though, real quick, is that the crime scene is being said to be condensing or collapsing as opposed to being the entire mall. It seems to be focused primarily on the food court area. And if anyone that was in the area last night had to leave a vehicle behind, as at that point in time, it was said that all vehicles were considered a part of the crime scene as well. They are beginning to be released. In fact, a tweet out from the El Paso Police Department just about an hour ago now, saying that they are asking any member of the public who needs to pick up their vehicle or property left behind yesterday to please use the on-ramp located next to the Olive Garden. The mall remains closed, and they are asking that you please have your identification and keys ready. And they actually have now put up the news conference with that updated information so you can see it for yourself. But we're going to be breaking that down more and more. Conversation coming out on Royd asking, have they released names and other conversation. Tell you what, we'll get more on those answers and more on, again, the situation, including audio from that recent news conference after this. Again, first break of the hour. We'll certainly be focusing on this here. And again, the resources available to the community. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this quick first break of the hour here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Stay tuned for more phone lines later. We certainly got a lot to discuss today, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of response. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We were dealing with the closure on Gateway North at Hondo Pass. That's now just been reopened. Now watch for slow traffic due to a wreck on Dyer northbound at Will Ruth. Also a medical emergency on Yarborough northbound north of Montwood. And we're still dealing with this stalled semi on the I-10 eastbound at Porfirio Diaz. It's blocking up the left lane. I'm Wendy Swanson, El Paso Traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West, that's it. What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
Hundreds of Trans Lives Matter protesters occupied Oklahoma's state capitol on Monday. We'll talk to Governor Stitt about why he's protecting minors from gender surgeries. Listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday. You can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be number one again in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in January. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering huge savings in all new and certified pre-owned vehicles. Interest rates as low as 0% for 72 months, and as always, exceptional trade-in offers.
Trade and upgrade for less during the President's Day sales event going on now at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. For limited time, get 0% interest for 72 months on new 2022 Quad Cab Ram trucks. Super low 1.9% APR on new 2022 Crew Cab Ram trucks. Get $2,000 off MSRP and 1.9% APR on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredos. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. At Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 and 1.9% APR is $14.48 per thousand financed. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
We first opened about 10 years ago. We were small, just a few of us, but it was exciting. I always dreamt of having my own business. It was kind of slow at first, but things started picking up. We had big plans, but in our wildest dreams, we never thought we'd have this much work. Yeah, with so many businesses caught off guard by the storm, Reed Waste Management has never been busier.
What will become of your business after a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now, before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
Over-the-counter pain medications can be bought without a prescription and are intended to reduce fever and temporarily relieve minor aches and pains. There are two main types of over-the-counter pain medicines, acetaminophen and NSAIDs. Although both types of pain medications treat the same symptoms, they work in different ways and have different risks and benefits. That's why it's important to always read and follow the drug facts label on your medicine. If you have any questions, ask your healthcare professional or pharmacist.
It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity during tax season because so much sensitive info is all together.
Before we start the annual meeting of Sean's personal info, has anyone seen Social Security number?
Not me.
Nope.
Nuh-uh.
Oh no, he's been stolen.
LifeLock by Norton makes it easy to help protect yourself. If you become a victim, we'll work to fix it. No one can monitor all transactions, but you can save up to 25% off your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Identity theft protection starts here.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have anybody to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? When a tornado is tearing through town? Or a hurricane strikes? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. And it's not always as simple as using your cell phone. That's why now is the time to take action. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media apps that we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv should be up on pretty much all of those here today, and a lot of information that continues coming out in a lot of these different ways here, and we're trying to do our best to stay on top of it. Of course, major focus we're having today is what we brought you as, unfortunately, breaking news yesterday on this program, which again is not usually our focus, but we start talking about major police responses between, I think, 40 to 50 police units that ended up responding to the Cielo Vista Mall area yesterday, and that's just of police. There were multiple different other local, state, and even federal agencies that were out there as part of that, including FBI, Border Patrol, state troopers, so a significant response there. But again, some of the major headlines as they are today is that 2 are in custody, 1 is dead, and 3 others are in the hospital today, and the aftermath of this shooting here, again, being referred to as, quote, a random incident between 2 groups. Now, Peter Pasillas, the El Paso police interim chief, spoke a little bit earlier today about this, and we got a lot of questions and even some speculation coming in. So the investigation is ongoing, I will say that. Now, there's a lot of reading between the lines, and some I agree with, some that I don't, but let's just lay out the facts as we have them at this moment. Again, with those now in custody, it was being said even as of last night that there is no danger to the community, which I think is a very, very, very important note to make, because there was questions, particularly about that second suspect that was apparently being sought. Again, both now in custody. Essentially, what this comes down to, this the nature of the random incident, is that there were these 2 groups that got into an altercation that escalated to violence and then shooting. But again, here is what a little bit earlier today, again, the interim chief of police, Chief Pasillas, had to say about at least some of the individuals involved in this.
1 individual is confirmed deceased and 3 others were shot. This is a random incident encounter between 2 groups. And I want to emphasize this. This is a random incident that occurred between 2 groups at the mall.
And also some other information we'll get to here in a second about the age of these being, basically young men, late teens to early 20s. But continuing on with some more of the detail from the news conference earlier today.
The confrontation between the groups took place in the food court area of the Cielo Vista Mall, and that's where it was isolated to.
So as there has been still quite the response going out in that area, some of our, including co-workers here, having just driven by that area, saying that, yeah, still a significant presence out there. One of the questions that has been asked is about when will the scene be released? Once will people be able to get their stuff, essentially? And so one of those questions that has, since this news conference, actually been answered, as we mentioned last segment, actually, is that they're asking people to approach from the, essentially the on-ramp to off-ramp from the Gateway West Boulevard near the mall. So it'll be the Lazy Boy and then towards the Olive Garden there that you'll be able to approach and get any left behind vehicles, property, etc. So that has now become a little bit more clear. They have begun releasing part of this, and essentially what was coming down to is that they are condensing that crime scene to around just the food court area itself as opposed to the entirety of the mall. Now, whether it will, when it may totally reopen or not, it was expected, even as last night, to be within days. Exact timelines not totally clear yet, but again, the interim chief of police further elaborating on the investigation as it stands at this moment.
Two persons in Group B were wounded and are listed in stable condition at local area hospitals.
So essentially, they're referring to these as Group A and Group B as the ones having this encounter within the food court, and then again, that escalation into violence. Now, a lot of the questions about charges, potentials, even the weapons being used here, not being released by police as of yet, as they are still saying that this is going on. Well, the ongoing investigation, and they're not going to speculate on potential charges, other things like just that yet here. So a couple more things I want to play from this news conference.
The ranges of both parties range from late teens to early 20s.
And so again, this happened within 24 hours at this point. So at least some questions about why aren't they releasing more. They're still trying to do the investigation. I mean, they've got them out there at this point. So I'm sure there will be more information forthcoming. But one specific question was asked, and the question and answer portion of this news conference earlier today was this gang involved? And the chief of police, again, interim chief of police, Macias, did say no, they do not believe it was. One final thing to be played here about the nature of this random incident.
There was a confrontation between these two groups at the mall that escalated into the shooting that happened there.
Did the groups know each other?
It's still part of the investigation. We're not, we still need to determine where their relations were, if any.
So those are major points that I wanted to point out from this and from this incident as they were so far. And I mean, there's a lot more points already being brought up there. Willie Jenks, among other things, saying, yeah, I'm sure more information on this will be coming out because, yeah, we are definitely still in the midst of the investigation. I mean, we're not even a full day as it happened. So again, some of the important things that I do want to make sure that people know and are available as the actual extent of this crime and incident itself is still becoming more investigated. Even if those weren't physically affected by this certainly can affect the community greatly. So there are a variety of resources that are available and available there right now. I'm going to reiterate this a few times throughout this program here today. Among other things, epstrong.org does have a couple of notices. One more on kind of the investigation aspect, that the FBI has set up a tip line of any information that people, particularly if they have pictures or video that were there or was made available to them, to submit it to fbi.gov/Cielo Vista Mall shooting. That's fbi.gov/CIELO-VISTA-MALLSHOOTING. Again, fbi.gov/Cielo Vista Mall shooting. So that has been set up, and they will be taking those. I think, I haven't clicked through that. There are like 5 megabyte limits, but if you have more on that, you certainly are able to contact them directly and submit if you got larger file sizes, basically. So for the general community, and particularly those that were feeling very affected by the nature of this, again, those crisis hotlines, 988 is now, again, the nationwide mental health crisis hotline. That I think is a very important one to note, and no reason, if you feel that you at all might need to use it, no reason you should not. But if you need a local call for Emergence Health Network, specifically their crisis hotline is 915-779-1800. Again, 915-779-1800. So I know we got a lot of questions and a lot of comments coming in right now. I'll try to address more of those here in just a minute, but we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Back in a minute.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. We're learning more about a deadly shooting that happened yesterday at Cielo Vista Mall. It happened in the food court, and according to El Paso police, it was a random incident. Police say that 2 groups of young men got into a confrontation that then escalated into gunfire. 4 people were shot. 1 of them was killed. 3 were hospitalized. El Paso police have arrested 2 suspects and are in the process of reopening the mall, which has been closed since yesterday's shooting. An El Paso teacher has been arrested and charged with possession of child pornography. 43-year-old Gabriel Saucedo is accused of using Google to upload 7 images of child pornography between December of 2021 and January of 2022. The Isleta School District confirmed that Saucedo is a teacher at Parkland High School. He started teaching there in 2020. Prior to that, he taught at Parkland Pre-K. Isleta ISD say that Saucedo was taken into custody yesterday in the school's administrative area. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
We have a stalled semi on the I-10 eastbound at Porfirio Diaz. It was blocking up the left lane. They've got it moved off to the left, so now it's not causing any big delays. We've got a medical emergency on Dyer northbound at Will Ruth, and then a collision on Sunland Park southbound south of Mesa Street at Cromo. I'm Wendy Swanson, El Paso Traffic.
From the CBS 4 Warm Weather Center, this is forecaster Nasai Mancini. Well, you can expect a little bit of warmer temperatures today for Thursday and Friday as well. Saturday, that's when a storm system will be moving its way into the borderland, bringing it just some slight chances for rain on Saturday, but an even stronger chance for rain on Sunday through next Wednesday. Now, this is a storm system that will bring a little bit of winds, but much lighter than what we have been seeing. And it's not as much as a cold front. It's going to bring in a little bit of those warmer temperatures.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Right now during Staples Sit-a-thon, select chairs are up to 50% off, like the Union and Scale Essentials Mesh Back Task Chair, now just $89.99 at Staples. In-store only, offer ends 2/18 while supplies last. Staples, the working and learning and savings store.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Josh, quote, "After walking around my whole life being a mouth breather, I was excited to try Navage. I read the directions carefully, pressed the button, and oh my gosh, what a sensation. So much mucus, so much crud, but oh sweet, merciful air I can finally breathe you through my nose. Never have I ever taken such an amazing breath in my life. This is a life changer," unquote. He's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you. Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
So I'm a dog, and I just got adopted by this new human guy. And I'm starting to wonder how he got along without me. I mean, okay, something as simple as walking around the block. He's got this leash thing, and he puts me on one end and him on the other, and I'm just taking him around. I think he's afraid of getting lost. Without that leash and me guiding him along, I don't think he'd find his way back home. But it's kind of cute.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Hundreds of Trans Lives Matter protesters occupied Oklahoma's state capitol on Monday. We'll talk to Governor Stitt about why he's protecting minors from gender surgeries. Listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday. You can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of two people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days. Again, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, but you can also, again, find us the YouTube channel, rather, for Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso, at Talk El Paso on Twitter, and twitch.tv. Similarly, that one's Andrew J. Polk. Again, Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk on pretty much all of those pages. You can find us in one format or another. So we have a lot of people tuning in and chiming in with us, including Ida Beza Gardner. Hello to you as well. And James Radcliffe, RJ, John Brown. Dropping those likes and reacts. We do have Ida Beza Gardner, James Radcliffe, Alex Campos, Angel Rueda, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Monica Cervantes, and Austin Redfern. And some other commentary coming in. Rick Reyes saying specifically, anyone have video? Call the FBI, the food court. You think they have cameras through the mall and parking lots with Big Brother watching? I mean, there were already some being shared widely on social media. I'm not going to play that clip here because it's not very useful audio and does include gunshots, which I'm not interested in putting out there for right now, but is widely available and has been shared by other news outlets, including our news partners at KFOX 14 of at least one angle. At the very least, the publicly available ones that have been released or been made available to, say, again, news outlets in our area have not shown that directly. I'm sure, I am positive that that is part of the investigation, any of those channels and any of those angles being shown on what exactly happened here. Again, there is that tip line that the FBI has set up. We'll just reiterate that probably a couple more times, but at least one more time right now, and that is FBI.gov/Cielo Vista Mall shooting. So if you happen to have, if you were there or know anyone that was, share that with them. FBI.gov/Cielo Vista Mall shooting. They are asking for information as they conduct this investigation in order to gather up the details on it here. RJ over on the YouTube saying, thank God the off-duty cop was there in 3 minutes. I don't think he was going to go on a spree, but just in case, now it's time to put arms guards in schools. I mean, a lot of kind of secondary considerations being made here, but yes, that was a major part of the response that happened there, and we even started covering that as of last night as it came out. But the latest information on that is that the initial 911 calls came in at about 5:05 p.m. yesterday, and that within about 3 minutes, an off-duty cop who was working mall security for a particular store, they've not said exactly which one, but was there and was able to respond within 3 minutes, and no officers ended up firing shots, so took at least the initial suspect, apprehended him, took him into custody within about that 3 minute marks there. John Brownson saying, I mean, I'm sure this was a thought and was even suggested to me, among other things, to give all the crime that went undetected yesterday after 4 p.m. Almost all of the cops in El Paso were at the mall. Not exactly. There are some thousands of police officers in El Paso, and I saw at least one police cruiser not there, even on the way away from the station last night. So not exactly. We're not exactly talking. I think you're kind of referencing, without intending it, the plot of that, which Die Hard movie was it? I can't remember which one you're talking about. I can't remember which one exactly, but I think that's kind of the idea of there being a mass response and therefore other like lack of presence elsewhere, and a lot of other comments about essentially what was going on there. RJ also saying that I get the feeling it was kids arguing and it went too far. Now, men or boys can make boneheaded choices in the heat of the moment. I'm not chicken comes to mind. That's at least some of the initial information. Again, there's other speculation about the nature of the people involved, including Richard DeMille. Some of the speculation I've seen online as well about there being drugs maybe or not involved. Again, the only concrete answer we have so far is that this was not gang activity. At least that's the initial answer. It's again given by the interim chief of police, Pacias, but I do certainly hope that this will be one of the questions we get answered. So that's certainly one of the questions we're hoping to get more information on, as well as the nature of the weapons. I have certain expectations at this point that would have may have been primarily handguns, because I feel like if it was long guns, there would have been a different level or response even leading up to that. But still to be confirmed here. That's just my speculation personally. There's a lot of other speculation. One other thing that was said that don't have the exact clip handy about, that there were at least 3 concealed carriers in that area of the mall not involved in the incident. That was a further note that was made by, again, interim chief of police Pacias, and noting that, I mean, in Texas, to carry a handgun, you do have to be 21 years of age. That question was asked as well, and that this was not one of those immediately prohibited areas. If there's other signs, other prohibitions, I have not been to Cielo Vista Mall myself personally lately, so I wouldn't be able to say that exactly. But yeah, it's, again, still an evolving situation, but again, the resources available now, if you happen to have any property, personal, or be it vehicles, what have you, they are asking people to approach via, again, the off-ramp to Gateway Boulevard West from near the Olive Garden, essentially. That's the way that they want you to approach, and to get there as well, they do want you to make sure you have your identification and keys ready. So they've begun releasing most of the crime scene here, at least a bulk of it, while it will probably be continuing on there. So more comments coming in, including about again, the nature of it, and particularly James Ratcliffe saying, my beef is they are hiding the accomplices at the risk of the public. I mean, they were doing the search, at least for the second suspect that they did end up apprehending. One of the questions that was asked actually as of last night to El Paso Police Sergeant Gomez was, what do we need to know? What is the description? And they were not ready to give one at that point. And it turns out they did shortly have that person in custody. So don't think anyone else is being sought at this point. If this ends up being a further reaching one, I have no doubt that they will put out information about anyone else being sought involved with this incident and with this shooting. So again, just one more time before we take that next break. Again, those resources available to the community, specifically as noted by the United Way of El Paso County. They do have the El Paso United Family Resiliency Center is available for counseling, certain mental health support services. They can be called at 915-775-2783. Again, 915-775-2783. They're open for a little, they're open till 5 p.m. today, but they're open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then again, for a 24-hour emergency crisis line, the Emergence Health Network crisis hotline is 915-779-1800. Again, 915-779-1800. As then, as well, of course, the 988 nationwide 24-hour crisis hotline. So let's go ahead and, again, we keep repeating those as necessary. I feel like a few more times. There's at least some other things going on in the community, or at least affecting us here beyond this, including how the Supreme Court is not going to be hearing Title 42 arguments cases as planned. They have been pushed to March 1st, but an update to the calendar showing some differences to that. So very briefly, before we take that next break, it is not going to hear on, again, Title 42, which had been more or less a cornerstone of a lot of federal efforts before the kind of move now towards Title, or return to, I guess, Title 8 and the CBP One app. A spokesperson for the court provided no explanation, and so the case has not been dismissed, but it has been removed from their calendar as of the moment. So that will probably have further implications, including what the response may be of immigration in our area, but that one might take a lot more. So let's go ahead and take that next break right now and go ahead and do what we normally do at this point during the program, which is open up those phone lines. Now, just to make a couple of things clear, this is not Free for All Friday, among other things, and wanton speculation about the nature of this crime beyond what we already have. I'm not really going to be entertaining that here today, but let's go ahead and go and open those phone lines. So if you want to get on the line, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We'll be back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound heavy and slow from Raynor over to Sumac. It's about 15 minutes of travel time. You're looking at an 8-minute delay. On the I-10 westbound from Geronimo to Reynolds, 4 minutes of travel time with a 3-minute delay. Then Alabama southbound, south of Atlas, we've got a medical emergency and a crash on Sunland Park southbound, south of Mesa Street.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's always has more ways for you to save. On top of their everyday low prices, pros can save big when buying in bulk. It always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. While supplies last, minimum purchase required. Selection varies by location. Lowe's reserves the right to limit quantities.
Play Cash Blitz scratch tickets today. You could win top prizes from $5,000 to $1 million. And have you heard about the $10 million Cash Blitz challenge? It's your second chance to win big. Just enter non-winning tickets at TexasLottery.com. You could win a VIP trip to an iHeartRadio event or concert, or a shot to play the $10 million Cash Blitz Challenge in Austin. Play today and enter to win at TexasLottery.com. That's TexasLottery.com.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
An orthopedic surgeon makes understanding pain painless.
It's the biggest frustration that patients have.
This is Dr. Pamela Mehta talking about aches with unexpected origins.
I see patients with pain in their knees, their hips, their back. Oftentimes, the pain is actually coming from their feet.
Bet they aren't expecting to hear that.
Those patients are super surprised. They can't believe that the pain in their knee isn't coming from actually inside the knee. But if you think about it, the feet are the base to your whole body.
That's why she suggests personally fit arch supports. Emphasis on the personal fit.
If you get something basing it just on your shoe size, it isn't going to fit you properly.
And if it doesn't fit well, it probably won't work well.
Go get arch supports fitted to you. It's as easy as going into a Good Feet store.
You heard the doctor. Try Good Feet for yourself with a free fitting and test walk. Learn more at goodfeet.com.
Airway Boulevard at I-10.
When most people think of the Salem witch trials, they think of Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible. But the truth of what happened is a lot more complicated than Broadway. We'll have that story. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
Rosetta Stone, where language is learned. rosettastone.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, particularly at this point during the program. We do have that phone line open now. The number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Probably going to be a little bit pickier about some of those issues that we still have developing and the information coming out of right now, but we're certainly willing to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderlands. So a lot of comments coming in over from online as well, including James Ratcliffe, apparently very unhappy with the information out so far, saying that when we have public officials, FBI, police refuse to say who these groups were because of possible CRT or woke stuff, they are putting the public at risk. They're not protecting the public. I think that's you reading into it more than anything, because we don't have the information released so far. And frankly, I see nothing untoward or not clear so far in terms of the way this investigation is proceeding. Again, we are just under 24 hours from the start of this incident, much less the response and actually getting into the investigation beyond the initial law enforcement securing of the scene kind of thing. I mean, that was still going on well into last night, them sweeping and clearing and securing and fully making sure that the scene was safe kind of things. So I'm not willing to follow that train of logic basically at this point in time. So I think that's more of you looking, painting the target, throwing the arrow and painting the target around it than anything else at this point. If it becomes clear that it's not being released within a timely manner, I mean, I want the investigation to happen and I want it to be able to be completed without any other interference, basically. So that's my primary concern and focus here, is making sure that the police work is done correctly, and any other considerations are frankly secondary at this point. I am glad that they're releasing parts of the scene and letting people to come and get their stuff as much as possible, but that was always, among other things, going to take a backseat to making sure that the investigation can be done. So let's get back to the phone line right now. Again, that number 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, Andrew, thank you. And I do agree with you. It's rather too early to speculate in this matter.
I mean, yeah, anything. I mean, I've called this out in other ways, so they're at least trying to stay logically consistent here, that investigations, the nature of them is usually we're not releasing that. I mean, there were plenty of questions that were asked during this news conference saying that's part of the investigation. We'll not be releasing that this at time, including, names, other things of specificities, including that of the deceased, even the weapon that was specifically used. That's about the one thing I'm willing to speculate on, just given logistics and my analysis of reality. But beyond that, there's just a whole lot we don't know, and I'm wanting to hear from officials officially, essentially, before I'm willing to jump to any conclusions on this.
Granted. Also, one thing I did not understand during the news conference today, the chief mentioned that there were individuals that were legally carrying.
Yeah, mentioned that there were at least 3 that they are aware of kind of in the mall area that were legally carrying. It would almost seem like a non sequitur. I'll kind of agree with what you're getting at there at the time here. So, and another part that he actually related to that mentioned about beyond the age of carry here in Texas, there was at least one reporter in the gaggle. I was not there myself, was watching the news conference from our news partners as well, but it seemed like it was the same guy asking about what is the legal carry age, will there potentially be any charges for those that were underage and potentially carrying. That's one of the things that the police chief was not willing to say about, saying we're not going to speculate or release anything on that at this time. And I mean, he did note that, Texas has constitutional carry, as well as the fact that the mall is not one of those exempt zones. So at least one of the questions come in is about, isn't the mall a gun-free zone? I will say I haven't been there in a minute. Cielo Vista isn't the closest. I don't really go to malls that much anymore these days personally, so I cannot personally say what is or isn't present in terms of the 30-6 or 30-7 signs outside of it. But the way that, again, the interim chief of police referred to it was interesting in my mind, saying that it is not a prohibited area.
Well, that brings an interesting point. Okay, number one, the chief said nobody knows who was carrying what. Okay, well, if you're under 21, you cannot be legally carrying. And my last visit to the mall, I can't remember exactly when it was, but there is signage there at the entrance about no firearms being allowed in the mall. So, people could correct me if I'm wrong. Like I say, I'm like you. I don't go to the mall. Nothing at the mall fits me. I'll tell you that much. Or do I like what's there? But anyway, so if it is posted there, you cannot be legally carried whether you have a license or not.
I mean, that is true. And okay, let's get technical here for a minute. What I'm referring to is a 30-6, 30-7 there, Texas legal code 30.06 and 30.07 that cover concealed or open carry respectively. And there are certain regulations. They have to be, inch high contrast lettering, usually black and white, have to be posted at all major entrances. I have seen other signs around the area, not to call them out specifically, but so I won't. But one thing that this sales, this retail outlet kindly requests you not carry a firearm openly here. That does not technically carry the immediate force of law, but they have made their intentions clear. So if someone from the business comes up to you and say, hey, will you please not do this here, they could then essentially trespass you from the business. So it may not be an immediate legal requirements, but they can still say that, like, these are our stated purposes, and as the property owner, private business, etc., we are asking you not to. So those kind of things is kind of in the background of my mind in all of this. I don't think it'll be the main part of this investigation. Again, there is the question asked if there will be charges. Nothing officially out about that yet when it comes to just simple possession, essentially.
Yes, understood. And yes, verbal. What's the word I'm trying to use?
Notice,
Verbal
something like that, yeah.
is sufficient. Yes, verbal notice is sufficient.
Mm.
One other thing I'm going to point out. Okay, the mall, when it opened back in 1974, they had their own in-house security, and those guards were armed back then. I remember as a young kid, yeah. The guards were there with revolvers. Later on, they went to some contract security. Well, later on, they disarmed their security force there because they still had their in-house security back in the 90s. But now they have some private security firm that is responsible for security. And, like I said, I don't badmouth to private security. I would. That's a job I would not do. But these guards that are out there unarmed, that's like having a pit bull or a guard dog without teeth.
I do have not really entertained the idea of doing private security myself, though I come from a different kind of angle, and it doesn't seem like the kind of thing I'd want to be doing either. But I mean, of course, just in relation to this, there was the off-duty police officer that was there. Not clear if he was armed or not. He was providing like individual security for a store in the mall, so that's the way it's been phrased. So I don't think it was for the mall itself. And he was the first responder on the scene, so to speak, and also literally, because he was apprehending the first suspect within about 3 minutes. So that's part of the information we have, though. It's interesting perspective, historical, you give there.
Yes. Well, I'm sure they are armed. Yeah, I know which stores do employ off-duty officers, and to this date, Walmart is even employing off-duty police from different agencies, to include the school district police and the local constables.
I mean, sure. Like I know of a variety of ways that happens.
Yes, but anyway, like I said, back in the day they did have armed security, and I would say to this day it does serve as it would serve as a deterrent. If you go down to any Sun Metro outlet, whether it be downtown or the outlying terminals, the city has hired private armed security.
Okay. And I think that'll probably be a conversation on the prevalence or lack thereof and what should be happening going forward from this, though. I don't expect that immediately, but I wouldn't be surprised if that starts coming up in like the coming weeks.
Well, yes, and just to, as I proved my point, as I've said before, okay, the way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, and just so happened a El Paso PD officer was there on scene. Fortunately, he was there, and this thing did not get any worse.
I mean, I'll agree with you that I'm glad nothing worse happened, even if the incident itself not great. But tell you what, we got to take that next break right now, hit the top of the hour. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. Again, number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back here in a minute. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound heavy and slow from Raynor over to Sumac. It's about 15 minutes of travel time. You're looking at an 8-minute delay. On the I-10 westbound from Geronimo to Reynolds, 4 minutes of travel time with a 3-minute delay. Then Alabama southbound, south of Atlas, we've got a medical emergency and a crash on Sunland Park southbound, south of Mesa Street.
Tweens have mastered the art of tuning out. Jen, there's a spider in the car. We're turning your room into a home gym. See? Nothing. But some messages need to get through, like making sure they're buckled up the whole ride, every time. Do whatever it takes to make your child listen. Jen, I friended your boyfriend.
Wait, what?
Buckle up, sweetie.
Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio. I'm Brian Shook.
President Biden plans to speak to Chinese President Xi Jinping about China's surveillance balloon that flew over the U.S. In remarks to the nation, Biden said he makes no apologies about giving the order to shoot the balloon down. He said U.S. intelligence agencies are still trying to learn more about 3 unidentified objects downed last week. Federal and local officials are assuring residents in East Palestine, Ohio, that they're safe, despite concerns of toxic chemical exposure following a train derailment.
EPA has assisted with the screening of more than 480 homes under the voluntary screening program offered to residents, and no detections of vinyl chloride or hydrogen chloride were identified.
EPA Administrator Michael Regan visited the community following the derailment earlier this month. Former Vice President Pence is vowing to fight a subpoena to testify before a grand jury investigating former President Trump's alleged attempt to overturn the 2020 election. The Republican, who's weighing a run for president in 2024, called the subpoena unprecedented and unconstitutional. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman is being treated for clinical depression. Lisa Taylor reports.
That's according to a statement from the Democrats' chief of staff. Fetterman is at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Maryland receiving inpatient care. The statement notes Fetterman has dealt with depression throughout his life, but it became severe in recent weeks. On Twitter, Fetterman's Pennsylvania colleague Bob Casey praised him for getting the help he needs and being public about it. Fetterman was just released from the hospital after feeling lightheaded during a Senate Democratic retreat. His health has been in the spotlight after he suffered a stroke last year. I'm Lisa Taylor.
The man who shot and killed 3 students and injured 5 others at Michigan State University this week was armed with 2 guns and several magazines of ammunition. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Hawaii lawmakers are considering flying homeless people out of the state. The bill is called the Return to Home Pilot Program. For 3 years, the Department of Human Services would pay to return homeless people back to their families in their home states on the mainland. The goal would be to send 500 homeless people back to their home states each year and to reduce Hawaii's homeless population by 2,000 in 4 years. A bill in Georgia introduced in the state capitol could open schools' librarians to criminal prosecution. Scott Kimbler has more.
As it is now, public school librarians are not responsible for available books that are checked out by students, but that could change. Republican Senator Greg Dolezal of Alpharetta has introduced Senate Bill 154 that would open librarians to prosecution of the misdemeanor of a high and aggravated nature for allowing books that are considered to be obscene to be checked out. The AJC reports the Georgia Library Media Association opposes the bill. The bill is backed by 21 state senators.
Californians living near Naval Base Ventura County are being informed of what's being called a mandatory enterprise-wide exercise this week. Daniel Martindale reports.
The naval base at both Port Hueneme and Point Mugu must maintain an elevated force protection condition until further notice. The restrictions are impacting traffic for people driving into and near the bases. Certain gates at both bases will only allow access for a few hours a day, both today and tomorrow. Otherwise, they are closed. The military has not provided further information. I'm Daniel Martindale.
Rebel Wilson says her pitch-perfect contract restricted her from losing weight. Speaking on the Call Her Daddy podcast, Wilson said her contract dictated that she couldn't lose or gain more than 10 pounds. The actress starred in the 3-film franchise from 2012 to 2017 as Patricia Fat Amy Hobart. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Check. That's check. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends February 23rd. Blindster.com.
Fans of the hit TV show Scandal can now revisit every episode on Unpacking the Toolbox, a Scandal Rewatch podcast, hosted by the cast members behind Quinn Perkins and Huck. So, gladiators, grab some Gettysburger and relive Scandal's most iconic OMG moments.
We would be in like 110 degrees in a wool coat.
Yep.
I mean, the chafing that was going on in my pencil skirts, I deserve all the acting awards, people.
Listen to Unpacking the Toolbox, a Scandal Rewatch podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's face it, credit cards are pretty much a necessity.
New tires for the car? Here's my card.
I order takeout, here's my card. And most of us just accept the high interest rates credit cards charge as a necessary evil.
What are you going to do?
Get a low fixed-rate credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit card balances. Apply online, and you could get your money as soon as the day you apply. The average credit card company charges over 19% APR. But with Lightstream, you can get a fixed rate as low as 7.99% APR with autopay and excellent credit.
Now I can pay off my high-interest credit cards and save money with a much lower rate.
Apply today at lightstream.com/radio and get an additional interest rate discount. That's lightstream.com/radio. Lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval. Rates range from 7.99% APR to 23.99% APR and includes 0.5% autopay discount. Lowest rate requires excellent credit. Terms and conditions apply, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/radio for more information.
Our iHeartRadio Podcast Awards are back. It's the biggest night of the year for podcast fans. Get ready to celebrate your favorites. Head to iHeart.com/podcast awards to check out the nominees for Podcast of the Year, Best Comedy, Crime, News, Sports, and more. Tuesday, March 14th, join us for our 2023 iHeartRadio Podcast Awards. Thank you. Audible is a proud sponsor of the Audible Audio Pioneer Award. From groundbreaking originals to best-selling audiobooks and the best and latest in podcasts, you'll find your next obsession at Audible, the home of storytelling. Try Audible free. Sign up at audible.com.
And now for today's Roblox winter weather alert. iHeartland on Roblox has been walloped by a winter snowstorm. It is a winter wonderland. You can now ice skate at State Farm Park. In State Farm Neighborhood, you can compete in snowball fights, grab a hot cocoa and cookies, and more. There's also special events from your favorite artists and podcasters all month, along with scavenger hunts, exclusive content, and unique items. So enjoy the festive winter weather at iHeartland on Roblox. Head to iHeartRadio.com/iHeartland today.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or over on our various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one. It's billed as one anyway, where most of the comments come in, but also other Facebook pages, the YouTube channel for Talk El Paso, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Whatever works for you as we continue our mission to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland works for you, and that's the right place for you to be then, as we try to have live talk radio here in the borderland and talk about the things that affect us here. Certainly a lot of focus on the aftermath of the Cielo Vista Mall shooting. Again, the two groups, a quote-unquote random encounter leading to a physical altercation that then ended up in the groups here. I want to make it a little bit clearer in case there was any confusion being had here. The way it was actually referenced by, again, interim chief of police, Peter Pasillas, said that, noted specifically here by El Paso Matters, quote, during that fight, Group B, one person produced a handgun and shots were fired. As a result of the shooting, one member in Group A was fatally wounded and deceased at the scene. Two persons in Group B were wounded and are listed in stable condition at local area hospitals. We did play that clip earlier, but then was also noted that there were at least 3 legally armed persons in there. El Paso Matters saying, and I'll quote directly from their article titled on this Cielo Vista Mall shooting started with random encounter, says El Paso police say. They are citing a source familiar with the investigation who has not to be identified because he's not authorized to speak publicly, that told El Paso Matters that one bystander fired a weapon during the fight. So not officially released yet, but they are quoting a knowledgeable source on this. So again, not really that interested in entertaining random speculation at this point in time. There are still a lot of questions that we have about this, but we're pretty early on in the investigation, among other things. So let's go ahead and get back to those phone lines now. If you want to chime in that way, that number to do so is, of course, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot of commentary actually coming in on the idea of carrying and of persons doing that. Willie Jenkins saying, among other things, we can always do a FOIA later, so it's not speculative banter. I mean, yeah, James Radcliffe, I kind of understand your frustration saying I had a shooter blocks for me and I know the name already. I'm going to call this different situations. I think you're referring to a barricaded suspect that was nearby you. Those things, if there's not complexity in it can end up being released. But given the size, scope, and impact on the community of this incident, I'm not going to be surprised if they are going to kind of like slow roll out information as it becomes available and as they are working to put together. Again, my primary concern is that this investigation be conducted and concluded, which tends not to lend itself to immediate release of information to the public, which frankly, in this case, until further notice, I'm kind of fine with. And Dorian Hinch saying, thought the mall was a no-go to carry, but otherwise malls suck and I don't go, so whatever. I'm kind of in the same boat with you there, I guess, so I couldn't confirm on it exactly. We'll say that, again, the interim chief of police did say it is not a kind of like statutory prohibited area. If they put up signs and things like that, it can be not allowed in there, but also conversation going on about the idea of off-duty police officers and the reasonableness of them here. An interesting side note, but like I said, I think that'll probably be more of a conversation going forward from this, given the impact that an off-duty officer in the immediate area apparently had on at least the initial response to this crime. So let's go ahead and get to those phone lines again. 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, wow, how sad and tragic. Another shooting at a shopping venue in El Paso. It makes me sick. It makes me fearful of going out there in our community and throughout this country. It's just horrible. Young hotheads with guns. There's a lot of those out there. Crazy people with guns, and so many guns out there. It was reported that there was a person at the Cielo Vista shooting who was at the Walmart massacre. Man, what kind of feeling does that person has to have, so far this year, there's 46 days so far this year, since the beginning of this year. There have been 72 mass shootings in America. And last year, there were 645 mass shootings. That's almost 2 per day. Recently, David Crosby of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young passed away. Now, here are a two-line lyric song from one of their songs titled The Cost of Freedom. Find the cost of freedom buried in the ground. Mother Earth will swallow you. Lay your body down. So the cost of gun freedom and inadequate gun regulations in America is the loss of the freedom of Americans from being killed while shopping, while at school, while worshiping, while working, while partying. I reiterate, America can never be a great nation when no one is safe anywhere, anytime, as a result of the bastardization of the First Amendment. Where is that well-regulated militia when you need it,
I think you mean Second Amendment.
None of these mass shootings look like the well-regulated militia necessary to the security of a free state. And the gun death rate in the United States is much higher than in most other nations, particularly developed nations. And we can thank the GOP, the gun lobby, the NRA, the gun and ammo manufacturers for the easy availability of guns and the lack of adequate regulations to end the killings. America is full of crazy people. Look at all the people who voted for and still support traitorous moron Trump. And by the way, Trumper Barbara was wrong again yesterday about the great economy while Trump was POTUS. Trump handed Biden a crashed economy and a very, very sick country. And just like the crashed economy Bush #2 handed Obama. And Trump inherited Obama's recovered economy and then blew it with his mishandling of the pandemic.
Okay, I think you meant Second Amendment there when you said first, but okay, let's go into that here. I would agree that certain incidents, such as what happened yesterday, should not be legal. And as a matter of fact, it is illegal to shoot someone, to kill someone with a firearm outside of very narrowly defined incidents such as self-defense. And even then, they're not so much in the law as they are in like separate laws that therefore, kind of grant, you don't have to just take violence happening upon your person. You can respond in kind. Things such as like that apply here, but, castle doctrine, duty to retreat laws, various things exist around the world here. Again, not saying castle doctrine applies here, just as an example of the way these things work. But also, as has been noted, again, a question was asked, we brought this up already on this program, about if there may be like possession charges, because in Texas, even with constitutional carry for those under 21, it is not legal to carry a gun, even under the constitutional carry law. So given the fact that we're talking about the age range of those involved here, again, those are some more of the questions that are a part of the ongoing investigation. We don't have clear yet who had what, who fired what the actual weapons involved were, though I think there's some reasonable assumptions that can be made at this point until, proven otherwise, essentially from the investigation about I'm willing to speculate that it's a handgun. I'm not willing to speculate much beyond that, just given logistics of the situation. So in this circumstance, anyone under 21, so those in the, late teens, part of what we're talking about here, it would be illegal for them to do so. So this was illegal. And of course, shooting someone, doing this, discharging a firearm outside of very specific areas, such as gun ranges and defined places within the city limits of El Paso, is also illegal. So we're talking about layers of illegality here already. So if these, I guess the point I keep coming back to here, and this was coming up unfortunately earlier this week, was the idea of, okay, we have said that these things are already illegal, but now we're talking about not just let's just take it further and say, okay, crime is illegal. Yeah, that's pretty much a tautology, because if it's against the law, then if we're listed on it, it's illegal. So I guess besides, essentially, if we're coming back to this, the idea of removing all firearms, what then would you say could have been done in this circumstance to prevent these individuals from, again, committing a crime?
I don't know. But I do know this. All that rhetoric on the right doesn't help the parents of the murdered kids and the families of all the murdered kids. So you guys can talk and talk and talk about this and that and the Constitution, but it doesn't help any of the people who were killed. And it doesn't change the fact that America is one sick pup, drowning in guns and full of nutty people. So what are you going to do about it? What are you and your friends on the gun nuts over there? What are your suggestions to bring this murderous rate down?
I would say perspective, and particularly if you're finding this and finding yourself in fear of leaving your house, that is not a reasonable state to exist in. So I would certainly recommend you avail yourselves of the mental health resources that exist greatly throughout our community, particularly at this point in time. Again, 988 is the mental health crisis hotline, available nationally 24/7. And then, of course, there is also other such resources, such as, again, the Emergence Health Network Crisis Hotline, 915-779-1800. If you're talking about helping those that have been either directly or indirectly, because this certainly brought up a lot of painful things for this community, given the location, given the impact, given, again, not even just the proximity to where it happened, but the location it happened in. The videos of people running from it, there's a lot of ways this can impact a lot of people. So, again, that number, 915-779-1800. So saying that, well, I think this should be ended and therefore I blame all these people, but you don't have any suggestions either. Okay, this is not a good thing that this incident happened. Let me make that 100% beyond crystal clear. The way we actually therefore change it to it, again, this was illegal. Let's make that 100% clear as well. There's not going to be much that I expect to come out of this that's going to be found to be permissible. There, again, is the potential for there having been an uninvolved individual who did fire a gun in response to this incident, and involved in the initial fight that broke out and the outbreak of violence that happened with it. Don't know about that individual or if that'll actually be officially confirmed or not. Again, that's coming from El Paso Matters, saying that they have someone familiar with the investigation. We'll see what officially comes out about that from the, again, police investigation. But we're talking about a law enforcement problem here. And frankly, I think the supposition about how do we prevent this is kind of missing the point of law enforcement kind of at its face value, because law enforcement, we do not have a precognitive crime division, the way it was kind of put forth in, again, the movie, what was it, Minority Report, doesn't exist. We don't have that. So trying to say, how do you stop crime before it happens, is a little bit bass-backwards, because law enforcement, again, it's enforcement, not law, not, crime prevention. That may kind of exist in some places, but it is there to enforce the law, not to prevent the law from being broken. It's there to, once it has been broken, to remedy it, to essentially deal with that. So that is so much to say that saying, how can we stop these people before they start, from kind of a law enforcement idea, is a flawed suggestion. What it comes down to more of it, I got to say, kind of the First Amendment. So maybe you were right in how you were talking about that here, is that think about the way our society treats violence. Think about the way it is portrayed. And I'm not necessarily blaming any individual outlet. I'm not saying video games are the cause of this. Lord knows that I grew up playing all the shoot 'em ups. That's okay, maybe not all of them that I ever wanted to, but a decent amount of it. And I've never once felt the compunction to inflict violence or bodily harm upon another person in my presence. I mean, yeah, maybe I've cheered at movies when the bad guy gets what's coming to him. But actually applying that to real life is not a line I've ever felt even the desire near to toe. But think about the way it is portrayed so often. The fact of the matter is that, I mean, any major blockbuster movie these days ends up having some kind of use of force or violence as the solution. I mean, the glorification of guns in this country is, I mean, kind of as you were talking to, I will agree to you on that limited point of it. It's pervasive. It's literally everywhere. So if we're putting this idea into people's minds that, guns, they're problem solvers. They solve problems. So just get a gun and everything will be dealt with. That is, I often talk about liking responsibly armed gun owners, people who have not just bought a gun. I mean, it's the same thing as like buying a car and saying you're a race car driver. It does not work. You have to have training, knowledge, experience, and competency in operating the platform is like the base level. That's where it starts, and it certainly doesn't end there. So if we are just saying that, yeah, we got all these ideas out there in our society, but no, those definitely don't have any impact on the way people end up deciding to use them. Again, this looks like it was potentially a crime of passion. The availability of it and the allowability of it under a law, again, is a question that has not been fully answered, but given the information that is out so far, yeah, doesn't look like that was even legal on its face for them to be present in this place with this in their possession on them carrying it. So when we start talking about, okay, so how can we prevent this? I mean, there are certain kind of Band-Aid solutions when it comes to maybe more presence. I'm sure there'll be a conversation going on about armed security. Kind of this has already been brought up. But if we start talking about, okay, how do we prevent this overall? I do think there are certain changes. I'll be honest, I'm kind of in favor of waiting periods, even though I know they're out there that are very against this because, crimes of passion, immediate need for it. There's a whole lot that goes into it there. But even just addressing the way our mental health system works and it is available for this and the way we kind of teach people about life, frankly, because someone thinking that, well, yeah, I can just look what movies have taught me. I'm able to do anything I want with a gun and it solves all the problems here. I mean, that's been a part of way too many things in the recent past. So I don't think there are any easy answers for this myself, frankly. But I will say that just saying, I mean, and as much as people have been saying, no one's saying take away all the guns, I need you to pay more attention because people are literally saying that. It's out there. And to say that no one's really suggesting that is just intellectually dishonest. It's been out there. It's been put forth. And even the ones that have been suggested so far, like nationally, like the assault weapons ban, I have an expectation, don't have firm evidence yet as the investigation is still ongoing, may not even had an impact on this. But again, it was already illegal from everything that's been pointed to so far. So anyway, that's a long way to say there are no easy answers here, but trying to go with them and just saying, just get rid of all of them, I don't think would actually be an easy answer either, because sure, you want to say that. We're talking Magic Wand territory again. Get rid of all of them, then it can be no more gun crime. Yeah, okay, there's a whole bunch flawed there, but how do you actually achieve that without, say, creating even more of an arguable police state than we already exist in? And yeah, I don't think that's a conversation that'll end up working out that well. So appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth, even if I understand the frustration with this. I share it myself, certainly, but therefore saying that we have to agree with this potential course of action that you're talking about here, not going to be one I'm following you there on. So let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll talk more about, I'm sure, this and other things. So if you want to get on that line again, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
If you're on the westbound 10, you can expect a slow ride starting at Geronimo as you make your way over to Reynolds. Then I-10 eastbound slow between Raynor and Hawkins. That's got about 11-minute delay. We've got a medical emergency on Alabama southbound south of Atlas. Another one on Gateway West at Geronimo. I'm Wendy Swanson, El Paso Traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West, that's it. What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends February 23rd. Blindster.com.
Play Cash Blitz scratch tickets today. You could win top prizes from $5,000 to $1 million. And have you heard about the $10 million Cash Blitz challenge? It's your second chance to win big. Just enter non-winning tickets at TexasLottery.com. You could win a VIP trip to an iHeartRadio event or concert, or a shot to play the $10 million Cash Blitz Challenge in Austin. Play today and enter to win at TexasLottery.com. That's TexasLottery.com.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. John, what are you doing? Get in my car. So why are you walking to work? Thanks, man. It's these insanely high gas prices. They're draining my bank account. I can't afford to drive anymore. Dude, don't walk. Just do what I do, because I never pay full price for gas anymore. I use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy. Oh, wait. You're telling me you get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app? Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas. Does that actually add up to anything? I'll make around $200. Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code PHIL for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's promo code PHIL. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, to PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code PHIL for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code PHIL.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Taking a lot more calls, commentary, and things over there. Again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so may have just filled up. But anyway, the number is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Surprise conversation, at least in a bit here, going towards the idea of potential solutions. I got to say, I'm not that interested or really willing to entertain the idea of, okay, what could we do in this? I mean, throwing political points at this point is never really savory, I got to say. But since we don't even have the full picture so far, I will say that certain things have been clear, certain things are reasonable to assume so far, but there's just a lot we don't know. And a question came off air, and I'll just make this clear one more time here. Information we have so far from police is that of the two groups, Group A and Group B, as they have been referred to by the interim chief of police, Pasillas, as of today, is that there is not gang involvement suspected at this point in time. So we will certainly see what more information comes out before we can get kind of a clearer picture on it here. But the conversation going online otherwise when it comes to the idea of, role of police, law enforcement, those kind of things going on here. And again, being in, media and putting my voice out there, First Amendment is certainly incredibly important to me. And I would certainly not encourage anything saying that, well, we got to sacrifice one set of rights, one amendment for the other. But to say that anything can be done and there's just like no consequences coming from it, I mean, what a society holds dear can definitely be shown by like how it treats those that are not as useful to it, the young and the very old, among other things. I mean, other marginalized groups can apply, sure, but in those kind of phrases, what do we actually care about? What do we want to see done? And the idea of, I keep fighting against it, frankly, the idea of, well, everything should, and will be done by the government just it falls flat for me. So the idea of taking, even personal security on solely by the government falls flat for me, particularly when it comes to the ideas of reducing the capabilities of, like, say, specifically law enforcement, combining that with the idea of, and you have less rights in what you can do for yourself, just does not make sense for me. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Just one more time, and I am not saying this flippantly. I know some do, and I take certain issue with that, but seriously, if you are having issues with this or anything associated with it, the Cielo Vista situation, or any of the kind of references or throwbacks this may bring up to you, there are resources available, and I would strongly consider and urge you to consider reaching out to them. Again, 988, the national number that is the mental health crisis hotline, staffed 24/7, and it is available. Or again, a local call if you need to make it, 915-779-1800, 915-779-1800. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. We do have Paul on the east side here with us right now. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, how are you, Andrew? Good afternoon.
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Thanks for the coverage yesterday. I was driving home, and it was pretty good. I noticed Raul right now. You mentioned to him that's actually the Second Amendment, not the First Amendment. It didn't even kind of flowed. It wasn't even a speed bump in his thinking. He just has his agenda. We know that every call he's going to talk about Trump and how much he loves socialism and how much he hates guns. So he said a lot of stuff that was inaccurate. There has been some mass shootings this year, and it depends on how you categorize them. I think if this shooting had happened in another location, it wouldn't have gotten as much attention. But it was so close to the Walmart shooting, and where it happened, I think stuff like this happens in Chicago constantly. So
that I've had kind of a thought along those lines here, because I mean, okay, any given weekend there are incidents of violence that happen around bars, pool halls, those kind of things that do not garner this level of response to it. I mean, the amount involved here may have ended up doing that on its own. And again, no level of this is like acceptable or good or like, no, that just happens. None of this is good in this realm, in this entire subject area. But yeah, I think it was particularly the amount of response that happened to it. I mean, even just from the sheer amount of law enforcement, first responders, emergency vehicles, etc., that responded to this definitely brought up illusions of, well, let's just be honest, August 3rd. That is, I think, pretty clear for a lot of people, and a lot of people are feeling that. But then also the place would happen in a very public place. I think it fits, frankly, and I'm willing to do this minor amount of not totally clear of this being like a crime of passion, so to speak, because anyone trying to conduct untoward business generally doesn't do it in such a crowded and public place. So, I mean, again, a lot more facts are needed to come out about this, but yeah, that I've had a thought along those lines of the nature of where this happens to it creating, well, frankly, a lot more impact on the community at large.
Yeah, I agree with you. Law enforcement, again, I don't know. Again, I'm not just trying to pick on Raul, but really respect law enforcement. But I can also tell you, if you think about it, I respect United States law enforcement, and I don't know your experience, but when I go like to Mexico and know about their law enforcement, I'm expecting a much lower level of integrity. I'm expecting to get pulled over for a bribe. So if we want to go to a police state and nobody can have their own protection, maybe we're going to head over to in the way of Mexico. But Raul did say a lot of stuff that's untrue and immediately politicized it and made it in such a way that you can't really talk about it, which is horrible. I disagree with you about the waiting period, but I would listen to you. I'm more than happy to listen to you. Maybe we could discuss a waiting period, but just to say, nope, we're not going to even discuss it. No, let's discuss it. Maybe we should come up with some ideas about all this stuff. And again, President Biden does the same thing. If President Biden wanted an assault weapons ban, then why does his Secret Service all have assault weapons of some type? And they have actual assault weapons. They have MP5s and things like that. And I do not want the president to get rid of the Secret Service's assault weapons. Otherwise, we're going to have more dead Secret Service agents and possibly a dead president. And I do not want any of that. I want people that are protected. And if he wants that protection for himself, then we probably deserve at least a better level of protection than he wants to currently do. So,
I mean, in general, yeah, I'll say I agree, particularly with your last conclusions there on, I mean, sure, looking at the levels of protection does not mean that I don't think they deserve them. But, I mean, again, in the conversations that are going on in the world and in our country right now, when it kind of comes along these ideas such as, defund the police, which, I mean, sure, some take it to mean therefore there should be no more police, but there should be, different services that take off some of the burden. But some of them do mean there should be no more police whenever those conversations are going on. And thinking about it as they're saying that people who often put these points forth are saying that, okay, there should be, less capability, essentially, whenever it comes to armed law enforcement. And then couple that with the idea that you're then now limiting your ability and options and rights when it comes to personal self-protection, that just does not compute for me, I got to say.
And I don't want to out you or make you bring in your personal aspect, but for those people that are afraid to go, please, Raul's now afraid to go everywhere. If you have and again, this is constitutional carry state. If you have your LTC, I usually am. I don't be stupid, but you usually feel like I'll protect myself if bad things come. And again, training, definitely the most amount of training that you could possibly get. So again, a lot of. You've heard, I'm sure you've seen the videos where you've heard lawmakers proposing bills, and then they'll ask them, "Oh, what is a barrel shroud?" And they're like, "Well, I don't really know, but it's in your bill." Yeah, and I want to say, come on, this should be with all laws. If you're going to pass a law, you should know what you're talking about. Get some experts in to talk with you. And again, I don't have a problem with discussing this with both sides and coming up with real logical restrictions or getting rid of certain things, getting rid of stupid gun laws that aren't doing anything. If we really were going to enforce our gun laws, and Hunter Biden would right now be being charged with some crimes, and that's the president's son. So I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but a kind of a factoid that sticks with me is that there are two things that the United States certainly leads when it comes to essentially in the world. I mean, there's a whole lot of things, but the idea of the most laws on the books when it comes to, when you break it down between federal and the states, there's a lot of them that we have the most laws on the books of almost any developed nation, as well as the most prisoners. I don't know if it's either per capita or just absolutely. So the idea that just having more laws leads to more safety, better, any kind of those things falls flat for me as well, because if you're not wondering about what the effect a law has, how you're actually going to accomplish this, because literally it's a tautology. Crime is illegal, and yet it still happens. So if you're not looking at the actual effectiveness of a law, what it actually does in reality, how you are achieving that goal of stopping something or having consequences at the very least, as again is the purpose of law enforcement for what it comes to illegal activity, as opposed to all right, I mean, sure, just in case everyone in concrete blocks with, a breathing tube out of it, probably have a lot less crime. Does that mean we want to do it? Absolutely not. So not actually looking at the outcome, the, again, effectiveness of a law and just saying, well, this is something we got to do, so we got to do it no matter what. That is not reasonable. And until we can come up with reasonable things, I'm open to them and willing to discuss them. Like I said, with the idea, this, and it's not the most one I want to put forth necessarily, but the idea of waiting periods, at least one that I'm willing to discuss. But anyone saying, no, we just got to, do whatever we need to because otherwise you're okay with this happening, that is not a reasonable person in my mind.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking the time. And again, I would encourage everybody to truly look at this and not just take some talking point and go with that. And most importantly, what your show does is discuss it. So,
all right.
Have a good day.
Yeah, sure thing. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Bye-bye.
All right. And with that, we are well overdue for that next break. So coming out of this, we got more points coming up, including like a Willie Jenkins saying that exactly the law of unintended consequences has been probably the most consistent one throughout this country's existence. But anyway, take a few more calls, get into what we can. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. We're learning more about a deadly shooting that happened yesterday at Cielo Vista Mall. It happened in the food court, and according to El Paso police, it was a random incident. Police say that two groups of young men got into a confrontation that then escalated into gunfire. 4 people were shot. 1 of them was killed. 3 were hospitalized. El Paso police have arrested 2 suspects and are in the process of reopening the mall, which has been closed since yesterday's shooting. An El Paso teacher has been arrested and charged with possession of child pornography. 43-year-old Gabriel Saucedo is accused of using Google to upload 7 images of child pornography between December of 2021 and January of 2022. The Isleta School District confirmed that Saucedo is a teacher at Parkland High School. He started teaching there in 2020. Prior to that, he taught at Parkland Pre-K. Isleta ISD say that Saucedo was taken into custody yesterday in the school's administrative area. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Watch for a medical emergency on Gateway West at Geronimo, and then watch for another crash reported on Gateway East at Airway Boulevard. I-10 eastbound heavy and slow between Cotton and Airway, about 20 minutes in travel time. Then I-10 westbound slow between Geronimo and Reynolds. I'm Wendy Swanson, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Another cold one on track for tonight. Lows getting back down into the 20s and 30s. You want to layer up for your Friday morning. For your Friday afternoon, a little breezy. Highs in the lower 50s, so still keep that coat and jacket handy. Then we go mostly cloudy for our Saturday. About a 20% chance of a morning shower or flurry, with a high in the afternoon around 60 for your Saturday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Blindstir.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindstir.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindstir's President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends February 23rd. Blindstir.com.
Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us be #1 again in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in January. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering huge savings in all new and certified pre-owned vehicles. Interest rates as low as 0% for 72 months, and as always, exceptional trade-in offers.
Trade and upgrade for less during the President's Day sales event going on now at Southern Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. For a limited time, get 0% interest for 72 months on new 2022 Quad Cab Ram trucks. Super low 1.9% APR on new 2022 Crew Cab Ram trucks. Get $2,000 off MSRP and 1.9% APR on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredos. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. At Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 and 1.9% APR is $14.48 per thousand financed. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Struggling with CPAP? Now there's Inspire, the only FDA-approved obstructive sleep apnea treatment that works inside the body to treat the root cause of sleep apnea with just the click of a button. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Visit InspireSleep.com to learn more.
When it comes to your tax refund, think
biggest, as in Jackson Hewitt guarantees your biggest refund or your money back, plus $100. Limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms. This report is sponsored by Jackson Hewitt.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days. And actually kind of got blown out of my head here. We were expecting to talk about it yesterday, but we are actually going to be bringing you the State of the State address coming from the Texas Governor Greg Abbott. So thanks, actually, Ed Clore, for reminding me there. That will be coming up immediately after our program here today. We'll be bringing you to that on air, and we'll of course, share the relevant links to it. So that'll be going on right after the show today because, I mean, the State of the Union, State of the State is also very important to all the other policy decisions we end up having. So, yes, that'll be immediately after this program today. We will be airing the State of the State full address as well as the response coming to it, coverage statewide, courtesy of Nexstar in this case. So stay tuned for that there. And so trying to do some quick searching up of the things I mentioned here, those anecdotal bit of evidences here. According to some of the statistics, some of the things brought from, like, say, Pew Research, among others, the actual amount of prisoners in the United States. Okay, so the United States is not number one whenever it comes to per capita, though we're in like the top 10, which is not a great place to be. But in terms of the actual amount of total prisoners, we're only beat out by China, which is not great company to be in. So just fact checking myself there. Anyway, let's get back to those phone calls right now, squeezing in what we can before the end of the program. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right, right out of the box, I got a few things to say. Number one, I agree with Raul. He was spot on. Number two, I heard you say in the course of your commentary that you have no solutions. And I find that hard to comprehend that you couldn't offer a few solutions of how to solve this problem. The reason I'm saying that is because humans developed the problem in the first place, and humans are going to be able to fix it in the second place. Number three, I've mentioned this once before. The way the Constitution, Second Amendment, is written is missing a few critical punctuation marks. Now, if you go out there to the National Rifle Association main building, I think it's in Virginia or something, or was, they left out critical parts of that whole thing, where they say the right to bear arms is supposed to be uninfringed. They forget the rest of the part very conveniently, and so forth and so on. And it's just so silly that we humans in the United States of America, the normal thinking people, not the nut jobs, can't come together and come up with the right solution to be able to fix this horrible situation with this gun stuff. And that's my opening rant.
Okay, so just to clarify here, I didn't say there are no solutions. I mean, I think that there are some that kind of chip away at this problem, potentially piecemeal, like kind of the suggestion of, waiting periods that may not exactly mean we still don't have the full information for what happened at Cielo Vista Mall's food court yesterday, so don't know for sure what may or may not have potentially been effective there. But what I did say, there's no easy solution. There's no, hey, just do this one thing and this problem's done forever, because, well, sure, you might even be able to state that, frankly, but without creating dozens of other problems, let's put it that way. I don't think that at least exists in an articulable way at this point in time. Maybe a concept is floating out there that no one's really hit on yet. I'm not totally willing to say that this isn't totally possible, but at least at this point, at this time, in a way that can be put forth succinctly, that does not exist to my knowledge.
Well, again, I say, and I hear what you just said. But the point is, the human beings in the construction of our democracy came up with these ideas. And then somewhere it got bastardized, whatever you want to call it, along the way. So humans came up with this solution or thought process, and humans will come up with the thought process to fix it. That's number. I want to say that. Now, all I want to say, you keep saying this 1-800 something something 988 something something something. Which is supposedly if you're sick or a whack job or something, call this number and you won't be a whack job anymore. Whoa! Time out on this. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to know you are a whack job in the first place to call the number. So I don't get that part.
Okay, well, let me back up here. That is not what I am assuming. I mean, if you do fit that description, I would also encourage you to call here. But I'm saying anyone at all having difficulties either with this situation, if they were involved in it, if they happen to be nearby, or if they're just in the community and they're finding this dragging up things from, say, 3 years ago or even beyond, that these numbers are available. So just to make that clear, 988, just those three numbers, dialable on should be just about any phone within the United States, is the one that will get you to the National Mental Health Emergency Crisis Hotline. So that is available, staffed 24/7. That'll either go to a local person or to a national hotline response center. So yeah, please, if you are having difficulty, and anyone saying I'm using this politically is just right out of their damn mind, because the point is, if you're having difficulties, please call this number. It is a resource that is available. Because you should, it's the mental health version of 911, essentially. 988 is that number. Now, if you need to make a local call because you're not able to call that, whatever the situation is, there is the local one staffed by Emergence Health Network, and that is 915-779-1800. Again, 915-779-1800.
I get that, Andrew. That's a wonderful PSA. The point is, those people that are expected to call have to recognize they're a nut job in the first place. If they're already screwed up in the head, they're not going to call that number. They're so far gone, they don't even know what a phone is, for crying out loud. That's my point.
Okay, I get what you're saying, but I would say that anyone, you don't have to be that far along into a mental health crisis to call this. Again, even just difficulties, these are available for conversation. If you're saying like, hey, I am finding difficulty in getting through my daily life because of these things that are weighing on me, including, again, recent incidents or really anything else. If, again, you feel like you are having mental health difficulties of any size or scope, these are available. Again, 988 is the number to call. People can access that 24/7.
All right, I got that. I'm going to talk some more about this, but let me just say one last thing.
Sure.
Hey, Barbara, I heard what you said, and you know what? I went up to my library and I dug out my old, very thick thesaurus, and I'm working on the bees. Wait till you hear what I'm going to find when I get all through these bees. Wait for it, Barbara. You're going to love it.
All right. Well, let me know how that works out for you.
Okay. Take care, Andrew.
All right. Sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
All right.
All right. And with that, again, I just want to make something very clear. There are some out there that use the idea of 988 a little bit flippantly, and I kind of disagree with you on that point here, because this is serious stuff. 988 is the mental health crisis hotline and should be taken very seriously, because anyone that feels the need to use this should be able to, without stigma, without really anything on their person, because it is a resource and it is available. Again, 988 nationally available nationwide. And again, if you need to make the local call for whatever reason, 915-779-1800. Again, 915-779-1800. And if you find political implication in me mentioning this, or that there are mental health resources, then you're just looking for a fight, and I got nothing else for you. Let's go ahead and take that next break. We'll come back to we got coming up for you on the show, set up for, of course, Friday, and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this quick break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound, you can expect a slow ride from Piedras as you make your way over to Hawkins. It's going to take you about 16 minutes. Watch for a medical emergency on Gateway West at Geronimo, another one on McCombs northbound north of Salem, and then we have a collision on Gateway East at Airway Boulevard reported at the on-ramp. I'm Wendy Swanson, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters with free shipping and prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during Blindster's President's Day sale. Hurry, sale ends February 23rd. Blindster.com.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Josh, quote, "After walking around my whole life being a mouth breather, I was excited to try Navage. I read the directions carefully, pressed the button, and oh my gosh, what a sensation. So much mucus, so much crud, but oh sweet, merciful air I can finally breathe you through my nose. Never have I ever taken such an amazing breath in my life. This is a life changer," unquote. He's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Attention business owners. Stop throwing your hard-earned money away on rent. Imagine owning your own building and saving thousands every year. Sound impossible? Not if you use General Steel. General Steel can help you save thousands by owning your own custom-designed building. Just call 866-62-STEEL or visit getgeneralsteel.com to see how much money you can save with General Steel. Our buildings come with a 50-year warranty, and thousands of companies, from Fortune 500 corporations to startups, have trusted the General with their building needs.
If you need to expand or start a new business, you really need General Steel.
I'm very impressed with General Steel. Everyone's been extremely helpful. I'd recommend General Steel to anyone looking to build a steel building.
Call 866-95-STEEL or visit GeneralSteelInfo.com to find out what General Steel can do for your home or business. That's 866-95-STEEL. Our team will answer your questions and offer you a customized quote. Just call 866-957-8335 now or GeneralSteelInfo.com.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Super out of time here for today. So I want to set up a couple of things we got coming up for you. I'm sure we're going to be having more discussion about this situation. But, of course, tomorrow, Free For All Friday, we got a lot that we'll sure be getting into there. But more conversations we're still hoping to have, including from our legislative delegation. We do have, again, immediately after this show, we are going to be having the State of the State address from, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and including the opposition response after that. So that's coverage courtesy of actually KUT Austin, among other things. So stay tuned for that immediately after this program. So otherwise, I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Seriously, I appreciate it. Talking about the things that affect us here and beyond sometimes is a very important one. We'll continue doing every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So until then, until next time, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound, you can expect a slow ride from Piedras as you make your way over to Hawkins. It's going to take you about 16 minutes. Watch for a medical emergency on Gateway West at Geronimo, another one on McCombs northbound north of Salem, and then we have a collision on Gateway East at Airway Boulevard reported at the on-ramp. I'm Wendy Swanson, El Paso traffic.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, For El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
For more than 20 years. Price and the biggest inventory on in-stock vinyl windows. And now, the Window Depot is more than a window store, offering homeowners and contractors a one-stop warehouse offering interior and exterior doors, granite quartz countertops, in-stock cabinetry, and skylights to finish your project. Their team of professionals will help with everything from free kitchen design to custom orders from leading manufacturers like Milgard and Geldwin. Order online or find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690, KTSM, an iHeart radio station.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Do flowers have best friends? I don't know. Hey, look. Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Whether in traffic info, you need it, we have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio News on the hour, KTSM. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
In Austin. About this time, every 2 years, in this building behind me, the governor of Texas shares his vision for the future of the state and sets his priorities for the current legislative session. The State of the State speech is typically delivered in the Texas House chambers in front of the entire legislative body. For the second time, Governor Abbott is delivering his address outside the Capitol. This time at a state-of-the-art production facility in San Marcos, just south of Austin. Tonight's primetime statewide broadcast of the speech will be seen live and streamed in 14 Nexstar television markets and is available to all other Texas broadcasters. All members of the Texas House and Senate have been invited to be in the audience for the address, as well as select members of the San Marcos business community. After the speech, we will bring you the Texas Democratic Party's response and then live reaction from Texas lawmakers. Here now is Texas Governor Greg Abbott with tonight's State of the State address.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good evening to members of the legislature, members of the Texas Supreme Court, state officials, and to my fellow Texans. As we gather tonight in San Marcos, Texas, the state of our state has never been more exceptional. Texans have inherited a legendary pedigree, a state first settled by brave pioneers, willing to risk everything for the promise of freedom and opportunity. Texas is fulfilling that promise. I'm speaking to you from the manufacturing floor of Novion. Novion is a cutting-edge business in the critical field of rare earth elements. They provide essential materials for things used every day, like refrigerators, trucks, MRI machines, and oil rigs. They even make materials for ballistic missiles for the United States of America to defend itself. Most rare earth materials now come from China. But if that supply is ever disrupted, many of the things that we do every day would come to a halt. The future of Texas and the United States should not depend on China. We must embrace innovation like Novion to make Texas more self-reliant, to create our own products, and to secure the future of tomorrow. With the help of businesses like Novion, Texas is #1 in the United States for the most new jobs. Since I became governor, Texas has added more than 1.9 million new jobs.